Today I will talk you through the study systems behind my study routine in Year 12, which got me an ATAR of 99.95. At the end of the video, I will also walk you through how you yourself can plan your day after school and study effectively. Hey guys, what's up? It's nice to see you again. This is Dineth here for episode 4 of the Study Smart, Study Hard series. In my last episode, I mainly talked about a big picture view on how you can motivate yourself over weeks or even months. But today I want to look at a more day-by-day basis, just how you can sit down each day and get your work done. So we can try to think of this in terms of two approaches. The first is a time-focused approach, and also we can try to think of it in terms of a task-focused approach. So the best case scenario is to integrate both of these approaches, of course, but in the video, we will also have timestamps so that you can try to skip around into the areas that you are more interested in. Firstly, a time-focused approach is where you have strategies in place to literally just try and sit down and study for longer periods of time. This is helpful because obviously in a 3-hour study session, you will get more work done than if you sat down and studied for half an hour, for example, right? So the most commonly used example of this is the Pomodoro technique. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this, but if not, it's basically where you study for 25 minutes at a time and have 5-minute breaks intervening. And you repeat this for say 4 blocks, after which you have a longer, say half an hour break. The good thing about this strategy is that it's a lot easier to think, okay, I'm just going to sit down and study for 25 minutes rather than if you thought, okay, I'm going to try and sit down and study for 2 or 3 hours. It just helps to break your study into much more manageable chunks, and then it's easier to sit down and work, right? But of course, you can change this as you see fit. For example, for most of high school, I did this thing where I would study for an hour and then have a break of 15 minutes and then I would repeat. I picked 15 minutes as a break time because I was able to roughly fit in half of an anime episode into there because I usually watch anime in my breaks. And I would argue that it's easier to stop watching after half of the episode rather than if you're near the end of the episode where there's like a cliffhanger or plot twist or something that's exciting. By the way, if you do want to study with me in these Pomodoro-like chunks, there's a video up here where we can study together. I also think that it's important to realize and important to exploit the fact that after you do a Pomodoro chunk, then you feel just slightly more motivated and you have slightly more momentum. So it's easy to do the next chunk afterwards, right? And after you do more and more of these chunks, then you just get more momentum and you feel more and more motivated. And then something interesting happens. So there is a circumstance where it's totally okay to disregard any more of this Pomodoro stuff. And that's because you've entered the flow state. So the flow state is basically a term in psychology that's used to describe a state of mind where you're just totally focused and engrossed in the task that you're doing. You start to lose a sense of time, and you might even dare say that you're starting to enjoy the task, right? In this state, I think it's totally okay to just keep going, just don't take a break and stop your rhythm, just keep going and just ride the wave. So with this in mind, I feel like the Pomodoro and its variants are just basically just tools to get yourself to start working and build some momentum and eventually get into the flow state. And after you're in the flow state, well, then you just ride the wave. And that's pretty much as productive as you can be. Although the bad thing about just a time-focused approach is that you might start to think too much about the actual just hours that you're studying for, and you think less about the actual work that you're getting done. So you may be studying for more, but you might not be as efficient or as fast in terms of studying as you would like. So this is why it's also important to consider a task-focused approach, which is where you really emphasize the amount of tasks you're doing each day and you try to knock down as many tasks as you can each day. And you worry less about the amount of time that you're spending on it. This sort of overlaps a little bit into Shane's Study Smart content, but I sort of like this idea, so I'm going to expand a lot more into it. For example, we've all heard about to-do lists, and for good reason too. They are pretty damn effective. They force us to think about all the tasks we need to get done per day, and it stops us from spending too long on one task at the detriment of the others. They also tend to give you a sense of urgency, like a race against time almost, to get as much of those tasks done that day done. This is why I really like the use of timetables, since they're basically just to-do lists spread out over weeks or months. But how can you make this very simple idea even better? You time box your tasks. And so this means that after you have a list of all the tasks that you need to get done, you just plan out how much time each task will take, and then you slot this box of time into your schedule. And so the goal is that you're trying to like plan out and optimize each of your study hours. So there are a lot of famous people who've done this. This here is an example by a guy called Cal Newport. He basically just planned his day out on a page in some journal. So on the left he'd have the time, and then he'd slip in his tasks after estimating how long each one is going to take. He'd also make note of any changes to his schedule. According to him, a 40-hour time boxed week produces the same amount of work as an unstructured 60-hour work week. And I don't think his estimation is actually that far off. Okay, so let's just have a look at an example of a standard school day and try to combine both our time focus and task focus principles to make the ideal study day. Alright, so let's have a look at an example of a typical school day and try to combine both time focus and task focus principles. So let's say you get home from school, and after you do whatever you need to do, shower, exercise, whatever, you decide to start studying at 5 p.m. First, you need to think of all the things that you need to get done that day. So say you've got exercises 8A and 8B in your maths textbook. You need to write out a paragraph of your English essay, and you also want to do some chemistry questions out of some past papers that you've compiled at the start of the term. Right, so there's our to-do list. Now we can try to time box this into our day. It can be a good idea to start with the subject that you like most, since it's often easier to get some momentum and rhythm, and also probably feels more rewarding, so you can get into the flow state a bit more easily. So if you're like me and if you like maths, let's put in maths from 5 to 6 p.m. And let's say you're going to spend the next hour until 7 p.m. planning out the points in your essay paragraph. You have dinner and you chill with the family from 7 to 8 p.m. And afterwards you get back to work, where you spend another 30 minutes just writing up your English paragraph. And finally, there's just some chemistry questions to get done, and you decide to spend another hour on those. This leaves you now at 9:30 p.m. Now, if you want to stop working at 10:30, you basically have that 9:30 to 10:30 p.m. block as a catch-up period to do anything that you did not get done in a previous time box. Now, to help yourself actually put in the study time and the study hours that you need to get these tasks done, you can add in some Pomodoro-style time-focused principles if you like. So here, in this block, we study from 5 to 7 p.m. But we don't necessarily have to spend the entire 2-hour block studying. If you're feeling a bit sluggish, if you're feeling that it's a bit hard to get going, you can split this into Pomodoro intervals. Maybe a 25-5 split or a 50-10 split. And the same applies for this 8 to 10:30 block. As a reward, if you actually do end up doing everything prior to 9:30 p.m, then you can take the rest of your day off. Or if you want to challenge yourself, then you can go beyond and do something extra. Thanks for watching the video. If you learned something, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling up for it, comment down your new time box schedule in the comment section below, and I'll take a look. I hope to see you in my next video, which is going to be on a day in my life studying for an exam.